Welcome everybody to another episode of T-Shirt Driving. We're here with another Polestar. This one is not mine, so if you've been following me on Instagram at T-Shirt Adventures, a little switch there, you'll notice that I've been wrapping this Volvo, so it's going to be a complete clone of mine. So let's take a look at what we are doing today in terms of the brakes and the reasoning why. So as you can see, it still has the factory brembo brakes. The rotors have a nice lip on it, the pads are pretty worn down, and it's just overall, you know, it's still the OEM setup, but it needs some replacing. It needs some pads, rotors. And then in the back, we can see we've got a lot of corrosion. Now, the reason for this is the car has been sitting. It's a 2017 with only 27,000 miles. Sitting over by the coast here in San Diego, and you can see the salt content in the air and how it's kind of eaten away at some material. So we're going to be replacing some components to make sure they're all fresh and new. So what are we doing in the front then? We are doing some rotors from Rotora, pads from Rotora, and lines from Rotora. So if we come over here and take a look, we have their two-piece semi-float system. So you've got the black anodized housing, which is made of aluminum, as well as their zinc coated for anti-corrosion. And even the fins are coated in there, and it's still wrapped up and all that stuff. So the other nice part is the fin thickness, and we'll take a look at that when the OEM rotors are off. In the rear, we are going to be doing the whole 9 yards. So we're going to be doing the big brake kit in the rear. So as you've seen in previous videos of mine, there's quite an involvement process with this, with some clearancing, cutting out the heat shield so that way the rotor doesn't hit. But let's take a look at the goodies. Included in the big brake kit, you get a nice cool box, of course. We have our rotors, which are not opened. We'll open those in a second, but we have our hardware. This is the electronic parking brake module. We have brake pads. We have very, very nice brackets, again, in that black color. We have new stainless steel lines and all hardware there. And of course, the beauties, the caliper. So upgrading to a 4-piston caliper. That is gonna be mounted there. Now, with the version 2 design of the Rotora calipers for the rear, they do clear the OEM wheels. So on the very first set, which was a prototype that my buddy Jeff has, they were just a slight bit thick, where they had some clearance issues. But ever since then, and figuring out after the prototype series and the fitment install, there's been no issues with fitting the rear brakes onto the OEM 20-inch wheels. So yeah, that's gonna be quite the stark difference compared to that corrosion to this beautiful setup. And again, this includes all new lines, all new hardware. The parking brake is going to switch from an electronic mechanical process to an electronic hydraulic process. So please check with your local laws and states to make sure that is legal with your system. Here in California, that's fine, but I know in some places like the UK or other areas around the world, that might not be a quote-unquote legal system to have. So please check with that before ordering and make sure that your system is compatible legally. So why are we not doing a full big brake kit up front? Well, this is definitely going to be more of a street car. This is going to be one more cost-friendly for anybody wanting to do a big brake kit, because the Brembos are still there, as well as I'll show you the differences when the brake caliper's off between my setup and the Brembo setup. So as you can see, we've got the nice fresh rotor on here. Still the stickers on there, gonna remove those before installation. But these grooves, the air channel, the air vents, they allow more airflow because of their size. And I'll grab the OEM one in just a second. It's sitting off to the side, it's just a little dirty. So we are going to be running these. You can see the anti-rattle clips in there for the semi-float system, as well as having the H2 pads. So these are in silver color when they come from Rotora. These are really good street pads. I run them on my own car, but they have the OEM design. So you've got your pins to slide right on through, which I have already done here. So you can see the H2 pads already in there. Yes, the caliper is dirty. Not too worried about cleaning it up. I'm gonna clean up the face of it, but pretty much it's gonna go up to Washington and see snow, debris, all kinds of stuff. So not too worried about making it picture perfect clean right now in the process of this. But the old, or the original OEM pads, you can see same design, definitely worn, pretty low. This is one side, the other side I think is a little lower. And then let me grab the OEM rotor. So, lifting weights today. Side by side, you can see the OEM rotor is a much thinner vane versus the Rotora one. And it's definitely heavier. I feel even though my right hand is stronger than my left, I'm struggling more to hold the OEM one up than the left. Exact weights, don't remember off the top of my head. I know I have those posted in another video. So no worries there. So we're gonna go ahead and install the OEM rotor, remove the stickers, throw on the caliper as well as the lines, do the other side, rinse, repeat, run to the back. So just wanted to show you a little comparison there between OEM and Rotora. If you wanted, or it's time for you to replace your rotors, I think these are a much better bang for your buck. OEM, I think, goes for around the same, if not a little bit more than the Rotora setup when it's time to replace your rotors. So you're getting a much thicker vane, you're getting really cool slots and a lot more of them than the OEM setup. You can see the hardware and everything versus OEM. I mean, it's similar, but this one's definitely a little beefier. You're also getting the anti-corrosion, which is huge, versus the OEM does not have that. So you're not gonna see rust build up on the inner slot, you're not gonna see rust build up in the vanes. That sometimes is the defining factor when it comes to purchases. So let's get to it. So as you can see, the front brakes are installed on this Volvo V60 Polestar. And again, this is supposed to be a OEM replacement. So we are replacing the rotors, the pads, H2 street pads, and then the brake lines. And then of course, don't forget to flush your brake system or do a brake bleed to get any air bubbles out of it. So as you can see, the hood is open. I've got my Castrol SRF, which I personally like to use. I know it's more on the expensive end. Not sponsored by them or anything, or do they help with this? It's just I find that for extreme use, it's got the best wet boiling properties when things have died down a little bit, as well as just dry properties for boiling temperature, so you don't overcook your brakes. But there's lots of other fluid that you could choose out there that's at least .4. I wouldn't go any .3. It's just not going to be a high enough boiling point, especially because these brakes are definitely going to take abuse, even in the OEM configuration with the caliper. So next up is going to be the rear brakes, which for me, I'm going to do a different day, so I'm going to be in a different outfit, but for you is going to be just next up. And again, this is the same process that you could see in installing as my previous video, so it's just going to be some quick snippets of that, and then doing a brake performance test to see how this setup compares to not only stock numbers that are posted everywhere online, but also to what I currently have, which is the Super Challenge kit on my own Volvo V60 Polestar. So it'll give you a really good comparison, since now we'll have all the configurations of Rotora's Street Challenge kit, where it's both the front and the rear caliper difference, and now with the OEM setup, where the OEM caliper is there, but just the big brake upgrade along with Rotora's H2 pads, their rotor, and their line. So it'll be very interesting to get all those numbers together as we continue this build on this Volvo V60 Polestar. So the rear brakes are now installed. Again, as a reminder, if you want to see the process of that, you can go to my previous video. Link is probably somewhere on the screen. But in regards to the rear brakes, I left the material of what's left over because there is some cutting involved if you glance over that. And I know there's some controversy of people being skeptical about cutting off material. Well, personally, I've owned my own vehicle for 4 years, and this upgrade was something I did almost right away. Numerous track days. Now, I'm not talking like your typical track day, but full on, like even competing in a time attack series. So really pushing the car as hard as it can. I've noticed no issues whenever I've checked on it, and even when I swapped over from the street challenge to the super challenge, there's nothing wrong. Now, the reason why is Volvo over-engineers these cars and they add so much thickness, which creates weight. So I just wanted to show you the pieces that come off and show you actually how thick these are. So for example, these are nice and cool now, but you can see how thick this is. That is crazy. And well, this is the heat shield. So you do have to cut that in order to make sure the rotor fits. But if you do it right, you can do it in one good piece. I actually did it in two. My other piece is over here. Yeah, so when you think about it in context, there's still a ton of material left over underneath that is going to support your sway bar. As well as your spring is going to be taking a lot of the weight too from underneath versus over top. So again, the whole thing with that, because I know people are on the fence, well, how long has it, lasted? Well, I'm still going on my car, and I've done plenty of these now where I've heard of no issues of anybody doing this upgrade either, or after I've done it for them. But here you are, you've got the 4 pistons, the much larger and beautiful, absolutely beautiful rotor. And this is going to fit underneath the OEM 20-inch wheels. Braided lines as well. So you get this component. Again, this is going to go into your servo. So when your electronic parking brake activates, it, in a sense, squishes or compresses the brake fluid, which then goes in through here. So when that doesn't happen, though, it's a nice easy bypass and your brakes still work just as normal. So it's a really cool setup. You can still keep your electronic parking brake. Again, check your laws, make sure everything is allowed. So we are out here at the last place that I did my brake test. Nathan is going to take his Polestar out, come on back. I've got the cone set up, and what we're gonna do today is we're gonna do an apples to apples comparison. So we're gonna send him out, he's gonna do his 3 stops, we're gonna mark them, and then I'm gonna do my 3 stops on my car to see if larger tires and the Super Challenge kit, even though they're running the same H2 pads, do anything different. So trying to be as scientific as possible. So as you can see, when his nose hits the front end at 55 miles an hour, he's going to brake hard. We have our guesstimations. Mine is the rock, his is the plastic piece. So that is where we're guessing he's going to stop. I've got my markers, and now we wait. So here we go again, round 2. He's gonna hit 55 miles an hour, staying all within legal speed limits.
How's it going? My name's Nathan, and I am driving this beautiful darling. And it's got some serious brakes. And right now, Pete's taking off. And we're gonna do some comparisons. Damn. Take 2.
So let's take a look at our data, what we have on the floor right now. So the rocks are what the OEM setup did, or Polestar 2 I'm gonna call it right now. Polestar 1 with the Super Challenge kit, mine, is going to be the sticks. So both are running H2 pads. Difference is the front caliper and also a little bit of the caliper dynamics and how it manages heat. So the shortest distance was my first run, and that is right here. Then the next one with Nathan's car, or the second Polestar, that is his first stopping distance, both cold and cold. Then the second stopping distance, I'm a little farther away as temperatures increase, because remember, these are H2 pads. They're designed for the street. Nathan's second run is a little bit farther. My third run, again, farther out. And then Nathan's fourth run, because we had a little oopsie on the third one, is right here. So you can see as temperatures increase with the street pads, stopping distance also is increasing. But what's really important, because these are street pads, you're gonna be reacting usually that first time something running out into the road, a deer, a person, something running out where you have to alertly slam on the brakes, coming all the way to a stop. Now when you're canyon driving, you're not coming all the way to the stop. So you're getting your brakes hot, but they're cooling down as you drive. We're doing 55 miles an hour to 0 stops. So this is pretty awesome data actually to see. And you might be thinking, well, they're pretty close. Maybe I don't need the full-on kit. So that's where we start talking about what you're using your brakes for. Your pistons are not titanium like what is going to be on the Super Challenge kit. So they're not an exotic material. A lot of motorcycles driving by today. In the front, again, you have your Brembo OEM setup. So you've got your single cast mono bridge. You can't take your pistons, or not your pistons, your pads out without removing the caliper. So there's a little bit more involvement when it comes to changing pads, because you could run this and run different pads for track. It's just going to be a little bit more time consuming to switch your pads out. Now when we come over here, we have the Super Challenge kit. So what has this done? It's actually rotated the caliper down 15 degrees. So what that's gonna do is it's gonna lower your center of gravity. It's gonna make it so when you hit your brakes, you're getting more force directed directly 90 degrees into the ground. You have your bridge. So you have a steel removable bridge, stainless steel removable bridge, which is going to increase torsional rigidity along with your through bolts. So there's going to be less flex of the caliper. These brakes also, which are designed for heat resistance, do not have dust boots. Instead, they have titanium heat extractors. And so what that's going to do with the piston, it's going to allow more airflow through, cooling down your brakes, your brake fluid, and all of that, so you can be on the track longer, harder, all the good stuff. Full floating discs, so these chatter and move. I'm not going to show you with a demonstration right now. They are hot and scorching. And also no zinc coating, or no anti-corrosive coating on top of it, whereas what Nathan has with the Street Challenge kit does. In the rear, life is a little similar back here compared to what he has now. Only difference with the Super Challenge, again, is the design with the caliper and the exotic materials. So again, you've got your through bolts, you've got ease of access to change out pads, just like the rear ones. You've got your titanium pistons, your full floating. What's different on mine, specifically to orders, I have some custom sized pistons. So they are different sizes to create a bigger rear brake bias than a Street Challenge kit. So with that being said, and our data found, both cars are really awesome. They definitely are mimics of each other. This is Nathan's first Polestar / Volvo. And what would you say of the brakes? He did not experience the OEM brakes, but just feeling the Rotora setup, what did you feel driving out here and doing the brake test?
Is it weird to say that my brakes made me feel fast?
They made you feel fast?
Like, I'm used to driving, like, you know, the OEM WRX, the kind of tricked out Civic.
Okay.
And,
okay.
you know, having just kind of not really paying attention to brakes but as I got older, the safety, stopping late, going hard out of the corner has become a lot more important to me. And these guys, yeah, I love the braking on it. I'd have more words if I wasn't still trying to find them. But
and for myself too, driving his car and then driving the OEM brakes and even my own car, it's such a different feeling having those small single piston calipers in the rear. You really have a lack of confidence once you have experienced the Rotora kit and you go back. You don't realize what you are missing. And with that being said, I'm sure under braking you didn't feel like the front end was diving at all.
No, that's one of the things that really surprised me, was just how complete the car stopped as a unit. There's barely any pitch. I'm sure you can see it on the camera, but the feel is very little. I wasn't worried about scraping. I wasn't worried about, hitting a bump as I was stopping. It's just butter.
Yeah. And so thank you guys so much for seeing this build. I know it was a lot of fun for me to do, not only the wrap, also some interior pieces with restorating, and just going over the car overall and making it great for the next owner. I know the Volvo community is pretty big in a sense and small at the same sense. So we're small and big because everyone knows each other, and this is a new Polestar owner with Nathan.
Hello.
So
happy to be here.
He doesn't unfortunately have any social media to follow though, right?
No.
So that's all right.
I'm one of those guys.
I'll be posting photos and up for him. T-shirt adventures on Instagram if you want to follow along. You can see some of the build process of this guy, as well as the finished results, as well as a fun photo shoot with the dynamic duo behind us. But he's going to enjoy a fun ride from San Diego all the way up to
Seattle.
That's going to be fun, especially in January when storms are expected, and he'll really get to see how the car handles with its all-wheel drive behavior. We'll see you guys next time.
See ya.